It's here. I got to the fifth film. It's Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. This is directed by James Mangold, stars Harrison Ford, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Mads Mikkelsen, Antonio Banderas, and in a lovely return, some other people whose returns I don't want to spoil at the top because unlike the first four Indiana Jones films, which I've already reviewed, I will assume you haven't seen this, and I don't want to ruin it for you. Look at that. I'm a nice guy. This is on Disney Plus. It has audio description, and it's done by Jedediah Barton and the lovely people at Deluxe. And when I say and the lovely people at Deluxe, of course I mean all of the people that we don't get listed because the world doesn't consider them to be important, which they are. But shout out to whoever wrote, mixed, whoever, quality checked, all of those people. Thank you so much. This audio description was actually better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So I enjoyed this one a lot better. I don't really have complaints with that. There weren't any huge standout moments where I was like, what the fuck just happened? What? I had that with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and that was a movie I'd visually seen. So yeah, this one did less so. I didn't have any of those moments. So is it good? This is like a raging debate. Everybody thinks that like Disney is getting woke and they're killing everything and franchises are dying. And listen, I walked into this fresh, just like a fresh, clear head. I was like, I'm ready to love this film if it's worthy of my love. I am ready for this film, and it's not bad. It really is not that bad. I don't know what the doom and gloom is about this film. It's certainly not any worse than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. It's not the original three either, though. That's a very valid point that we needed to discuss with the people who are defending this film maybe a little too hard. It's not. It's not. I'm sorry. It's just there's something to be said for the fact that I said it in my last review. I was like, I don't know that we always need to see our heroes die. Sometimes they just get to live on, and it wasn't until the fourth film that we sort of started to see this tying in of characters and bringing them back in, and this nostalgic sort of take on Indy's life. And we see it more here. There's a lot of circling back around to characters we've seen previously, and then characters they want us to believe we've seen previously. Hello, Toby Jones. But not necessarily characters that we have seen previously, just ones that they're trying to gaslight us into believing we're retconned into the franchise. And then once again, we have the villains are Nazis, so that's really easy because I've heard some people say negative things about Mads Mikkelsen here. It's like, first of all, he's an amazing actor. Second of all, he doesn't really need a whole lot to flesh him out. The Nazi thing kind of does that for. I don't know what else you need to hate him. Are we at that kind of point where we need like complicated Nazis? Otherwise, we might accidentally like them. Because I really hope we're not at that point as a culture. I really hope we can just still put that swastika on somebody and be like, yep, Indiana Jones has been fighting these people for years. It's just, I just didn't need that much from him. I was just like, yep, it's another one. They keep popping up. And just like flies, they're just all over the place. So it just didn't have that problem. But I did have the problem of I've seen reviews. I've had it pointed out. I know that some people don't like the de-aging that's been done. Guess what? I'm a blind film critic. So if anything, you guys get a pass on that for me because I can't say anything about what the de-aging looks like because I don't know what it looks like. However, what I can say is his voice never changes. Maybe this is one of the rare times we can actually use AI and make it useful is to actually de-age his voice also, because he sounds the same age the entire film. And this is coming from somebody who has ears, not eyes. He's the same. His voice never changes. He always sounds like he's 80. He sounds like he just fell off the Yellowstone prequel that he did. He just, I'm gonna come for you. It's not the same Indiana Jones. there's no youth, there's no pep in his step. There's just that gruff crackle in his voice, and I've been a long way. And he's in his prequel moments when he's supposed to be, I don't know, 40. So it's just it's it's very odd, and it doesn't line up. And yeah, it's a very valid statement to say. Uh, cool. Yeah, you de-aged the face. What are we doing about voices, though? You can't take somebody who's 80 and make them sound 40 just through the magic of voice acting. Like, you actually have to do some stuff with that, with Harrison Ford's voice. So, once the film gets going, though, we have this. Oh my god, it's long. Luckily, it's really interesting, but holy shit, the back in time period was uh, it's a lot. It's not it's not 5 or 10 minutes. I feel like I was back in, and then we flash back to it a couple times. So Toby Jones is actually in quite a bit of this movie, but it was interesting. It's, takes place on a train, and lots of of course I'm thinking about Toby Jones, and I'm like, him doing action sequences and stuff just amuses me. So I'm just like, obviously if this was real and this was Indiana Jones and in the age he's supposed to be, he'd be doing a lot of the heavy lifting here with Toby Jones, getting him to jump from one train car to the other. So I did find that amusing, using what I know visually, mixing that with what I can't know, and I'm only using an audio description. It amused me a lot. But they're trying to find a certain relic, and then they end up finding this other thing that may be more valuable, and that, of course, is the titular Dial of Destiny, which I feel like we missed out by. This video could have been sponsored by either Dial Soap or Destiny the video game, and nobody called, but thus we move on. So it's the reason why I like it is because it doesn't reveal its hand at the front like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull does. I hate to say it, but James Mangold does outdirect Steven Spielberg in that regard. It's really hard to outdirect Steven Spielberg, but he does. And James Mangold is a fantastic director. He's just one that we don't run down and scream his name down the middle of the road. But if you look at his filmography, it's really solid. It's full of like Logan, Ford versus Ferrari, Walk the Line, Girl Interrupted. Copland is on there. That's a very underrated film. A lot of people don't think Sylvester Stallone can act outside of the Rocky franchise. I'd say watch Copland. That's usually my answer to that question. He has Identity, which is a little cult film that a lot of people like, along with like Kate and Leopold, which was, I thought, really charming. So he has a lot of interesting films on his resume, and I liked all of them. There wasn't a film on there that I had seen. I think some of those were TV shows. I think like Vegas and was a TV show, so I don't think that's a film. I don't remember a film just called Vegas. Maybe I'm wrong. But I think I like all of his films. So, yeah, he wins here with that because it's not so revealed. It's not so obvious. Steven Spielberg clearly is so confident in working with aliens in films like Close Encounters and E.T. that when he's at the front of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, he's like, guess what, guys? It's going to be an alien film. James Mangold is like, you don't know what kind of film this is going to be. I'm going to get you. And I felt that too. I felt like I didn't really know where the film was going to go. I knew what they were looking for, and I knew the players of the game, and that's what made it feel like an original indie film, like from the original three, because in those films, you know what they're looking for, you know who the bad guys are, you know who the players are, you know the random Indiana Jones friends that have been introduced, who supposedly have been there all along, but this is their first film, and Indy acts like, it's so weird. It is, but that's one of the best things about this franchise, is it works a lot like 007, where he's just going after a new artifact every single time, and there's like a new villain, and even more so, the strength is that he can bring in these people and make them feel like that they've always been there. Like going from Raiders into Temple of Doom, and suddenly there's Short Round is there, and he's like, yeah, this is the kid. What are you talking about? This kid, he pickpocketed me when he was 4, and I took him under my wing. It's like, dude, I just watched your last movie. You did not mention this kid at all, and I don't know what you'd be doing with a kid, like during Raiders. So, and the kid's not 4, so obviously you've had him for a couple years now under your wing. Um, but the franchise has always been really good about that, and that's what they do here. They're like, oh, you didn't know about Toby Jones? Well, didn't know about Basil? Okay, all right, well, here he is. Oh, he's got a daughter too, and you're going to meet her in the present day. That's why we're doing this. So that's where Phoebe Waller-Bridge comes in, and that's where everybody lost their fucking minds. Just absolutely, totally lost their. Calm down. I never got the indication that she was the next Indiana Jones, that they were trying to pass the torch to her. First of all, I don't want to spoil this, but I really do, because I want to shut some people up. But there's no reason to believe that this that this is going to be. I mean, there's like a wink, wink, nudge, nudge thing, but also Spielberg ended the franchise with the 4th film. He really did. When you look at the way that the 4th film ends, he kind of gives you closure. Indy and Marion end up together. Indy finds out that he has a son. He gets not just his job back, but it's like a better job at his professorship. So like everything kind of wrapped up in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull in a way where we didn't necessarily need to see Indy again. So how do you beat that? James Mangold comes back and is like, well, they told me I need to make a 5th one. I guess this is how we do it. And I felt like that's a clever way, and you can't just do it the same way again. And it comes so close to doing it the exact same way as the 4th film, and being like, well, this is the ending. It feels very similar to what we just did, but we're gonna try to put a permanence on this one. So I didn't mind the little hint, the little wink, wink, nudge, nudge thing. It didn't lead me to believe that they were going to go, this is going to be interesting from here on out. Yeah, her character is very sort of morally all over the place. I don't think she's supposed to be the next greatest thing. And at the same time, when people are like, oh, we're just putting a strong female into these roles and making it woke. We tried Mutt. We put a dude in the film. You guys hated it. Did they want to put another dude in the film? What are they gonna do? Call Chris Hemsworth, and then you guys are just gonna bitch about that and be like, ugh, it's clearly not right for this film, and Chris could never be Indiana Jones. The truth is, no one could ever be Indiana Jones. No one will ever be good enough for the fans. Didn't matter who that person was, who it was going to be. Is never going to be good enough. So Phoebe Waller-Bridge is getting a lot of hate for nothing, because no matter who was in that role, it was going to be the Shia LaBeouf problem again, where somebody thinks that person's taking over the franchise, and they just bitch about it because that person's not Harrison Ford. And that's all it is. Although I am really I was kind of taken aback by the existence of Fleabag in this role. I was like, damn, she's come a long way. Why is she an action star? It's not really where I saw her career headed, but okay. Cool. So I thought she was fine. She's good with the comedy. She, I guess, handles herself well in action sequences. She seems to be doing more of that with the Bond franchise and the upcoming Mr. and Mrs. Smith thing she's doing with Donald Glover. Yeah, she seems to be kind of, that's where she wants to be. So I'm assuming that she's taking care of herself and learning how to fight, and she doesn't look ridiculous. I don't really know. I mean, I just get audio description. Maybe she looks silly. I don't know. Maybe she shouldn't be fighting people. But I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt and saying that since people keep casting her in action things, maybe she's supposed to be here. So I thought she was fine. She's an interesting character who doesn't feel like Indy has had in another film, which is good. It's good to have that. I felt that out of Mutt too in the 4th film. I just thought Shia was a little miscast, they took kind of everything that people liked about Shia and they put him into this other role, and he couldn't be the lighter. He should have been able to be lighter, in that role. But I think they were afraid that he'd come across too much like Indy, um, instead of this sort of like angry, rebellious thing that they were trying to go for. Um, it could have been the right role for him, but they just wrote it the wrong way. Here, I think they wrote her the right way and gave her the right character for the right time, and it just kind of worked out. I feel like she's perfectly fine here. Um, I didn't hate it at all. And I don't think just inserting females into things ruins films. So I think that's dumb. Um, I I think the film has a problem with Indy's age and stretching out sequences so that we get less action and more standing, looking, staring, like lots of intensity, letting the action happen around him so that he doesn't have to do a lot of jumping and swinging and fighting and whip slinging and a lot of crazy shit. So they saved Ford from having to do a lot of that stuff. I think he still got injured on set, if I remember correctly. It was either this or Star Wars that he got injured on. I feel like there was some injury he had recently on one of his films from doing a little bit too much. I don't know. I feel like we didn't need this film. We didn't need this to see him get old, and there's no physical way to make another sequel to this. I really just don't know where they would go from here, because he's at the point where he knows he's old. He knows he's had his run in life, and he kind of is at several points in this film. He's accepting the fact that he's good with dying. He's like, I'm good with that. If this is my time, it's my time. Let me be here. And in many ways, I kind of didn't like the ending, because the ending that Indy wanted actually wouldn't have been a bad one for him. I thought it was kind of cool. I thought I was almost like, damn, this is actually kind of cool. I kind of appreciate it. And then when they backed away from it, I was like, the fuck did you just do? I feel like this film tested, and then people were like, no, that can't happen. And so we're like, okay, fine. We'll just write a coda to the film, and we get this, and then it feels like we're back to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull ending, and we're trying to wrap everything up very nicely so that the series can just be, I don't know, it is what it is. I've heard some criticism about the little kid. I don't like to criticize little kids. He's not my favorite part of the film, but he wasn't like atrocious to the point where I feel like we need to point him out, if that makes any sense. He doesn't have the kind of, he lacks the kind of presence that Ke Kwan had as Short Round, in the way that I would be shocked if 50 years from now that dude won an Oscar. I'd be like, wow. With Kay, you can kind of look back at his performance and be like, you know what, he's kind of fun and entertaining here, and this is a good performance. But this kid, I just didn't, I felt like it could have been any kid. There was nothing special about him necessarily, but also he's not bad. I just couldn't pick him out of another casting call. Yeah, so I enjoyed the film better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I think James Mangold is a solid director. He made some better choices. It's still not the other films, and I don't think that we could have gone to a fourth film, but we needed to go to that fourth film in like the early 90s. That's when we needed to go to the fourth film if we were going to do it. We waited way too long to go to a fourth film, and then we waited even godly longer to go to a fifth film. Indiana Jones could have been the kind of franchise where you passed it off to another actor. And I think it would have worked had they done it at the right time. Just for the same reason I feel like everybody was like, no, nobody but Sean Connery can play Bond. And then there are a whole bunch of Roger Moore fans out there who think that he's the best Bond. So to each his own. But obviously, in the beginning, people were really resonant to the fact that we were going to Roger Moore in the first place. So I think you just have to see it happen, and obviously, if we didn't transfer Bond, we would never have gotten, Daniel Craig, who a lot of people really enjoy his films too. So it is something that could have been passed along but once you start aging him and you start tying the characters back in, then it becomes about that version of Indiana Jones. And that is kind of what happened with Daniel Craig's Bond, is that because of the stories intertwining together and characters that didn't get let go, the personalization of it to his specific storyline, that was where it made it so that it needed a wrap up. And now we're looking for a new Bond to restart the franchise yet again. So if there is a new Indiana Jones, it's not going to be Phoebe Waller-Bridge, because they're not going to tie it to this franchise. They're going to literally remake it with a new Indiana Jones and a new mission. It won't be Raiders, but it'll be like Bond, where they just come along with a new adventure for him to tackle, and it won't be for a few years, so don't worry about it. Audio description I thought was really solid. There's a lot of stuff that happens in this film that has no place in reality, so that was good. And I love the underwater stuff. I gotta say that's one of the more creative decisions, was because Indian snakes, right? And what's the one thing he hasn't fought yet? Eels, which are basically underwater snakes. So I love the fact that we got, at least in the fifth film, one last thing for him to face was snakes, but underwater. And I thought that was really creative. And I did enjoy that sequence. So yeah, it's not as bad as people think. I don't know why people hate this film so much. Like I said, I went into this clear-headed, and I watched the first 4 films, so I know what it's like. It is not the first 3. It is not. So people who are pulling it back too much and trying to make it seem like it's the greatest Indiana Jones film of all time, it's not. There was a really great moment. It's kind of spoilery. I'll just say, because of what the Dial of Destiny is capable of doing, there's a moment when Phoebe Waller, when her Helena character asks Indy, what would you do if you could go back in time? And Indy's answer to that question and Harrison Ford's acting in that moment is phenomenal. I was genuinely moved. He actually moved me. He was so connected, and so that was when the old man grit that he has in his voice really helped, because his voice was cracking, and when he explained it, I was just like, my heart broke. And I thought that was such a great moment, and that's one of the few uses of the fact that if he wasn't old, we wouldn't have gotten that, but I would trade that out for an Indy that remains virtually the same age, like James Bond. So it's a trade-off. So some people are gonna like this, some people are gonna hate it. I thought it was good and not great. So I'm gonna give Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny a B. Yeah. I like films. I like to be entertained by films, even as a blind person, even as a blind film critic. I like to be entertained, and this was entertaining, and James Mangold made some great choices, as he usually does in his films. So Logan is a fantastic film. So anyway, that's it. Please click that subscribe button. I'm trying to break 200 by the end of the year. You can also follow me on X, Threads, or Instagram at Mac Movie Guy. You can go to the audio description project, adp.acb.org. It'll let you know what films have narration and where you can watch them. And you can go to the ADNA.org. That's the ADNA.org, and let you know who's narrating your favorite films and television series. That's it for me today. I'm going to watch something else and see you guys on the other side.